Hi everyone, I hope you're good. Welcome back to Mirror Mind, the channel that looks at the mind and everything related to the mind, which pretty much is everything. I'm your host, Boss, and I'm with Katleho here today. It's one of the person that I've had a chance to talk to on social media, but never had a chance to actually see face to face. Perhaps you can introduce yourself,
Yep.
tell them a little bit about your background, and we can jump straight in.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Katleho, and my background is in organizational psychology, and currently most of my work that I do is in coaching, and yeah, that's what I love to do and talk about the most, is the mind, which, like you say, is everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. As we were saying earlier on, we tried doing this for the first time. I think it was Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And it didn't really click that people have children, unlike me.
Yeah, I still find that funny.
Yeah. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
No, it's a pleasure. You know, as I was telling you a little bit earlier, I never really have the direction because I want the authenticity to be there.
Yeah.
And also be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I feel I thrive more when I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Instead of starting from a comfortable place and then right along the way be uncomfortable.
Right.
So how uncomfortable are you?
I'm very uncomfortable. It's not my natural space to be in front of cameras.
And trust me, it's the same for me, but it gets better along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you see, just looking at that malfunction happening just few seconds ago, kind of triggered something in me. I wonder if we can discover what is good, what's good and what's bad, really, in this life, right? Can we discover what is goodness and what is perhaps bad or called evil?
Yeah.
And then maybe we can see if men can find a way to live a good life.
Sure. That's a big question.
Yeah, we can start it step by step. I'm sure maybe we get something out of it.
Yes. I think everybody, like even on the basics, right? If I say I love ice cream, then I'd have a tendency to also love a specific flavor.
Kind of ice cream.
Strawberry, right? Yeah. And then somebody else says, no, chocolate is better. It kind of boils down to the individual and their preferences. And those preferences also dictate even the big things in life of what we consider good and what we consider bad. And it's also determined by the culture that we come from as well. So it's not just me as an individual. There's a collective culture that also directs me to say, you know, only chocolate ice cream is good. Strawberry is very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then goodness, so is goodness subjective matter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Goodness isn't automatic. It's not inherent in anything, you know, at least of all the complexity of a human being, right? Human beings aren't purely good, no matter how good they are.
They aren't purely good no matter how good.
Yeah.
So humans aren't good at all then?
No, not at all. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is everything is neutral. And then I come along, and with my preferences, my culture, how I was socialized, how I was brought up, I then look at something that is neutral, like this cup, and I decide whether that's good that's there. You know, I'll give you an example. For me, that's fine. If my mother walked in here, that would not be fine. It should be washed and put away, right? Yeah. She has a preference, and I have a totally different one. And then I live my life accordingly, right? That might irritate her, that might be fine for me. And then your life moves on from there.
All right, so since goodness in this case is very subjective,
Yeah.
could then, so then this kind of goodness, let's call it a kind of goodness, is very conflicting in a way. Because you see, your mom would be very irritated here. You say, okay, I'm fine with this, leave it here, I actually want to see it here.
Yeah.
Your mom is like, no, we have to take it to the kitchen.
Yeah.
So goodness then creates issues for human beings.
100%.
Everyone thinks they're good.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay, so forgetting that mom and me are not the same.
Yeah.
She expects me to know, because she brought me up, that that's not good, right?
Yeah.
And I expect her to leave me alone because I'm grown and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yes? So we forget that we don't have the same ideas. And so we can even clash on what we think is good. Never mind what we think is bad. Now that takes it to a whole nother level, right? And I think it kind of talks to some of the other subjects to say, yes, we're not one, but then there's a background where we are.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we should explore here where we are not one first, you know, and then perhaps ultimately goodness is the background where that unity is.
Yes.
Anything here is just, you know, it's an approximation of goodness.
Yes.
So since it's so partial, it's bound to create conflict.
Yes.
So then, what's the fuss about values and morals and religions and so on?
Well, I think if we start with religion, in my view, it's not going to be easily accepted view, because we live in a very religious country in South Africa.
Where people think they're good.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a program, if I can use the most neutral word that I can think of. It's a program that says these are the things that will give you a good life. So we use that word again, right? And you as an individual need to live a good life for the benefit of the greater good.
Yeah.
Can you see how many good things start coming in, right? So this program starts to give you rules and expectations and standards, norms of how you're supposed to go about having that good life.
Good life, yeah.
Day to day and year to year, right? And if you make a mistake, how can you fix it so that you're good again? And that's looking at it at its simplest basic level, right? If you are a religious person, you see it as more than that. You see it as, you know, this is what I really believe in, this is my faith, this is good for all human beings, and it's also good for me, and this is ensuring my well-being, not just on this earth, but my eternal.
Good.
Yeah, that's it, right? So once you start bringing the eternal good,
now that's
big.
The ultimate good.
Yes.
So it seems like men are always seeking goodness. But in seeking it, they're terribly bad.
Yeah.
Because whatever you do here, then, you know, because if you have an idea of what's good, I have an idea of what's good, none of us has any goodness. Because our goodness will kind of like clash.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So how can we ever get to eternal good if we don't find the actual good here? Not to redefine what's good or bad, but to actually find out what is good, actually. What is goodness?
Yeah.
What is it to be a good human being?
And I think there is, in my mind, there is a way, right? Because at the end of the day, we are human beings, we've got to be practical.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that you could do with your life that are going to be harmful
Mm-hmm.
to you or to others, right? And they're not always obvious, but most of the big ones are clear in many cultures around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no culture in the world that says murder is good, for example, right? So there are things that do enhance the well-being of each person and each community. But I think the difficulty is looking for the good outside of myself all the time. You know, if I look for it from others or something outside of my own agency, my own ability, that's where I think people run into trouble and start clashing with each other.
Mm-hmm. I believe so too. Because you see, goodness can't, the way I look at it, now this is what I'm trying to say, goodness can't be subjective. If you introduce division, there's nothing good that can come out of it. Okay, now let's say, for instance, we've got some values that we can follow, right? We've got rules, pretty straightforward rules that if you follow, we can have a good society, quote unquote good. But is it really good? Let's say an example that you use, murder. Killing is bad,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But we kill so many chickens along the way, it's not so bad, isn't it?
That's true.
We're murdering them,
Yeah.
so we've put a curtain in front of our eyes so we don't see our
Yes.
so-called bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But we are murdering all these things every day. Not just animals, it's plants as well and so on. you know.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you look within yourself even, the microbes, the germs and all that, it's constant murder inside going on.
But we don't call it murder
Yeah.
when it's not a human.
When it's not a human.
Yes.
Because you've narrowed down
Yes.
you've probably figured, okay, look, I have to survive. The species has to survive.
100%.
So we'll destroy any other thing
Yeah.
in order for us to stay there.
And isn't it how we are here today, though, with the global fears that we have for the earth, real or not real? Some people don't think it's real, but this idea that human beings are allowed to be superior and dominate, right? So, yes, killing a human is bad, but killing a chicken is not,
It's not bad.
or a cow, or you know, an elephant, right? But there's somewhere where you start saying,
Not the,
let's not kill the elephants anymore. You know?
you can even take a step further. Killing the neighbor is bad, but not as bad as killing my brother
Yes.
or my
Even
wife.
even that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see, so it seems like we only, this to me can't be goodness. When goodness is subjective and so on, and but it seems like seeing through that illusion of what we call good or bad is the birth of good. You know, understanding basically. When understanding start coming up, then you are really becoming good.
Yeah.
You're putting everything in its right place.
Yeah.
You won't go and tell a lion not to eat an antelope.
100%.
It's
Exactly.
it's just the nature of the lion, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you just stay away from there. You won't go and tell a Muslim not to be a Muslim,
Yes.
or a scientist not to be a scientist.
Yes.
So it seems like the world is in a battle of you have to be me. Right? I'm Christian, therefore Christianity has to be all over.
Yes.
I'm a scientist or I'm an atheist, therefore believing in that is nonsense, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But isn't there something hidden in that process of one trying to be everywhere? it's like some sort of imposed unity that is trying to happen.
Yes.
Why do you think that is happening? That it seems like the world is always trying to get back together as just one in so many different forms.
It's a good question. I think it's because it feels like it will be easier to control. If it's all the same and we're all doing the same thing, then it's easier. It's like if we all follow the same traffic laws and we don't make up our own, because I'm rushing more than you're rushing, then the traffic actually flows easier and faster, right? So it's like sameness creates an ease and a comfort, and difference, which is
clash.
Right. The universe is diversity, but we want the sameness for. It just gives us comfort, and it's less scary. Also, if you're different and I don't understand you, it's easier for me to be afraid of you.
So then we're doing that out of fear. Are we trying to unite out of fear?
I think it's very few who are trying to unite. I think it's more
divide,
trying to control.
Yeah.
So it looks like uniting, but actually what I'm trying to do is control.
I have my small family cell that I can control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we think the same and we say the same things, and nobody scares me by saying something I've never heard before. So is it unifying? I don't know. I struggle to come across genuinely unifying people or systems.
I like to think that's very rare too. Okay, so perhaps let's look at those two different type of people, right? So the ones that are trying to unite genuinely, and the others that are just trying to divide, right? So let's start with the division. Could it be that the man trying to divide is acting out of fear? Because if you're trying to control something, why are you trying to control?
Power.
Power. Yeah. What does power give you? Security, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without security,
safety.
So it's fear that is pushing you all there.
Yeah, most definitely.
Fear of what?
Fear of losing control.
So one of your mics is...
we're looking at the devising nature of man, right? So he's acting that way because he is afraid. Anything that he seeks is coming from there, the fear.
Yeah.
Power, security, money, fame.
Yes.
All that is because he's trying to hide the fear.
Yeah.
Fear of what?
Fear of life itself. There's so many things to be afraid of that you can tell yourself is real, right?
Yeah.
If we just look at a simple home in Santon, right? The electric fences, the gates, the alarms, all out of fear, of being attacked or things stolen. So there's so much. And the more you fear, the more the things to be afraid of multiply.
I mean, you could be afraid of not being able to breathe the next second.
That's it.
And then
we've had that, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've had that.
Yeah.
Isn't that what COVID was?
Exactly.
Right? And then we end up in all kinds of protection and masks and
So fear then is a very important, should I call it important? A very substantial part of the human psyche.
It is. It's a very important thing. And so if you don't have, the thing is, if you don't have fear, it's difficult to survive. So every baby that's born comes into the world having fear. But it's very few things. It's loud noises, falling.
Mm.
That's it. Nothing else. Right?
Mm.
Everything else we learn to fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most fears are acquired.
Yes.
So can we then say if fear works that way? Okay, let's say a baby, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
When the baby is afraid of loud noises,
Mm-hmm.
could it be that there's this state that is in, which is it's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and then a noise come out of nowhere. You know, it shakes him up a little bit.
Yes.
Now he's acquired the knowledge of the noise.
Yes.
So could it be that fear is that division still, in the sense that there was a moment of silence,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was another moment of noise?
Yes.
So the fear is him not accepting that there's a change of state.
Or recognizing that there's a change of state.
Yeah, recognizing that there's a change of state.
Right.
But if you recognize, if you're okay with that state,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if you prefer to be in that previous other state,
Yeah.
then there's a conflict of I need to be, what is this?
Yes.
I need to go
I want to go back.
I want to go
Yes.
back.
Yeah. Very true.
So knowledge plays so knowledge basically is the source of all fears.
Yeah. Knowledge, if you're putting it as knowledge because you are trained or taught or learn
Mm.
things to fear,
Mm.
people to fear, other than those two original ones that you're born with, yes.
No, let's look at even those two that you're born with.
Yeah.
Because it's the knowledge of the state of silence,
Mm-hmm.
and then the knowledge of the noise.
Yes, okay, I hear you.
So these two knowledges are clashing.
Yeah.
One
yeah.
wants to be constant, forever constant.
Yeah.
Even when you look in the DNA, probably there's acquired information, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the DNA that has some sort of information, how it
Mhm.
is to
Mhm.
breathe,
Yeah.
how it is to this and that.
Yeah.
So you are born with some sort of slow but quiet knowledge,
Mhm.
kind of,
Yes.
that the body knows how to react.
Yes.
The body knows how
Because the body knows how to survive.
to survive.
Yes.
So could you say then that the ultimate fear is the fear of not being,
Yeah.
which causes survival, which causes the DNA information going through generation and generations, and then now we have on a higher level it's clans, tribes,
Yes.
Christ, and all that.
Yeah.
So it's the fear of going back to where you're from.
Yes.
Life.
Yeah.
Life is the fear. Basically, life is the fear of going back to no life, kind of.
Yes.
So it seems like division is really a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that we have here in this world is always caused by division, which is
Mhm.
why probably most people are divisive by nature,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So then, if division, let's say division is bad,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we call bad.
Yeah.
Anything that comes out of division will cause problems, and but it's necessary,
Yes.
because you're sitting there, I'm sitting here.
Yes.
That division is necessary for us to have that kind of
You see,
conversation.
that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, we are human beings,
Mhm.
and we have to be practical. If we look at it, if I say practical, I mean like any other mammal,
Mm.
right? We have to carry on living. We have to perpetuate the species,
Mm.
right, and survive. So there is no real unity in that,
Mm.
because all that the species, all that mammal wants, even if it's a human race, is for the next generation to come through and live and prosper and have well-being.
Mm.
And that generation
To go on.
yeah,
So, for time to go on,
mm-hmm.
time doesn't want to stop. It has to
Yes.
go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Now, if all we know is division in that sense, fundamentally, is
Mhm.
division, and we've seen that division is some sort of with division there's no actual freedom, no peace. You can control certain parts of divisions. You have the blacks and the whites. Blacks are really good among themselves and but ultimately you're just building up tension for maybe future generations and all that. You have the lions, and then within yourself you also have that sort of conflict, although necessary, but it's there. Then can we say that man by nature is quote unquote bad?
I wouldn't say so, no.
So then can we say man is by nature quote unquote good?
No, I wouldn't
So
say
what
that
is man?
either. I wouldn't say either. I don't think it's categorical. I don't think it's definite. And I think that's the difficulty, is that a lot of people want to be sure this person is good, this person is bad, right? And it makes life so much easier if you can say that. But for the most part, 99% of people, you can't say that, right? And if we give an example of why, there is no good parent. There is no great parent. There is no perfect parent. Why? Because every parent is just good enough if they're doing the best. Just good enough, you know? And if you take the good off, it's just enough. All you can do is enough to bring this child up safely and well with the resources you have. And then when you start judging it, that's when you start saying, oh, what a good parent. Or what a good person. But the day that person isn't good, then what?
Then what? So isn't that goodness, the understanding, the way you just put it, could we not say that is really goodness, knowing that there's no such thing as real evil, there's no such thing as real good?
That's a very difficult question. I don't think so. I'll tell you why I don't think so, but I don't think I have the end.
No, we'll
answer.
find out. Yeah, we don't know. We're finding out.
Yes. Okay. I think that once you start wanting to label something, either way, you're gonna get down the road somewhere and be in a corner because of that label, right? The label you put on it, not the label it automatically has. Whatever you're looking, whether it's a parent or just an ordinary person or whatever it is that you're looking at, that label is put on it by you. It's not that way naturally.
Yeah.
Its natural tendency is neutral.
No, I see. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Here, as human beings, that's our ways of living. We label things.
Yes.
We say this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
But that is not true. It's illusory in the sense that what is good for you could be bad for me.
Yes.
So we're saying that is bad. Labeling, saying this is good or this is what I'm saying basically. Saying this is good.
It's not helpful.
And this is bad. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
And it creates conflict.
That's it.
Because it comes from a sense of not understanding maybe the other perspective.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Now I'm saying could goodness be that understanding?
Could goodness be
The understanding that there's no such thing as goodness or evil.
You could, yeah, from a certain perspective, that is a worthwhile view to have. It enhances you. It brings more well-being to you. So you could call it good. Right?
No, but you see, look, wait, that's very interesting. See how human beings are, right?
Tell me.
Yeah. You see?
Yeah.
What you're saying is, I can have this view, and it could be a good view if it serves my well-being.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have a motive.
Yes.
There. You see, you have a motive of, okay, I'm gonna act or say this because ultimately it is good for me. You've introduced that division of, I am doing this for that.
Yes.
So there's no virtue in that.
There
You know-
isn't. There isn't. And I think you're very right. The only thing is, if you are noticing that, if you're doing that deliberately, for me, there is a point at which a person cannot see that they're putting a label. They can't. They have one view of everything. And I just see good or bad wherever I go. And then there's a person who, I would say, grows or matures and starts to see other perspectives and other possibilities. Growth is good because that is our nature. We naturally grow, right? It's going to happen whether you put effort
Well, it's
into
inevitable.
it. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
you calling growth good or bad is unnecessary because it is meant to happen.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? And so that, I think that's where I was getting lost, because you're meant to start seeing that, oh, I was putting labels on things, and there's other ways, there's other views. You're meant to do that and get perspective. Some people might even call it wisdom, you know? So we don't have to call it good because it's growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to point out. I know it's very subtle sometimes to talk about these things because by nature we are divided.
Yeah.
So you could be pointing at something, but you have to use your division in language even to talk about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what we're saying is growing is neither good or bad.
Yes.
Growing is. It's an inevitable part of life.
Right.
Right? Now, you can call it good or you can call it bad. You calling it good and bad actually is the evil I'm talking about.
Right.
It comes from
I
a
hear
sense
you.
of not understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A man who's good can't say that is good. If you recognize that you are good, you are arrogant.
So I would probably
Yeah.
use a different word.
Okay. What's the word?
I wouldn't call. I would say that is the sin.
Yeah.
It's a sin, but not necessarily evil, to see growing as good or bad. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay, let's use, maybe the word is harsh. What word can we use? Okay, a man who, let's say I realize that I'm good, right? What is the process of that realization? It is, let's say you hurt yourself, right? Out of compassion, I don't put any thought in that. I see there's an action happening. There's a proper reaction that needs to happen. Compassion is acting in that sense, right?
Right.
I act. Now, a few seconds later, I'm like, oh, I'm a very good person.
Yeah.
I have knowledge of what has happened before.
Yes.
Isn't that arrogance?
No,
What
I
is
don't
it?
think so. If it's accurate, if you're accurate,
No, whether you're accurate or not,
yeah.
what's the importance of that
I'll
movement backward, of recognizing or feeding yourself into saying, I'm a good person, or regretting? You could also regret and say, I'm an awful person.
I think there is value in it.
Okay, what?
And what I've seen in myself and in other people is the value of recognizing the good in me is that I'm more likely to keep on growing as a result. I'm more likely to keep doing things that feel good to me because I recognize myself as good, right? And when I do it in such a way that it's the audience is me only, not you and the rest of the world. Because some people will take that and go and shout it on the rooftop that I'm good, right?
Yeah.
There is a difference between recognizing that there is good in me and appreciating that about myself, and only seeing good in me and not able to see good in others or in you, right? Only seeing good in me, that is arrogance. having to underline and emphasize the good in me at your expense, that's even more arrogant, right? But recognizing my nature, because the problem with goodness is that it's also connected to my nature, right? Recognizing my nature as good brings me closer and closer to growth and recognizing my greater nature.
What is the greater nature?
The greater nature is that goodness, like a golden thread that runs through all of us. It's how we start with that blank slate as a baby. There's no bad baby, right? Even though there's some parents who probably think differently.
Shame on them.
Yeah, and it happens, right? But there's no bad baby. And so that goodness, even when you're not a baby anymore, is there.
Yeah, well, I think you've clouded it probably, but you can definitely get to it.
Yes.
I think that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, we do cloud it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think we're trying to do here. Experimental, not just think about it. If you can, if we fail, that's all right.
Yeah.
But we would have tried.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, right, the baby doesn't recognize that it's good
No.
or bad.
No.
That's why it's good.
Yes.
See, the moment you've built up an image of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Then obviously you're introducing a division, because now it is my image against your image. And someone will come there and say, who are you? Do you know how many kids I've helped in life?
Yes.
You know, now you start comparing all the good things that you've acquired about yourself.
Yes.
You can
That
also
is
say,
arrogance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can also look at him, he's done probably more than you, and then you say, oh, now you feel less than him.
Yes.
You know, so all these things that we call emotions start arising from all that.
Yeah.
So it seems like goodness is a state of not knowing that you are good. A state of not knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any knowledge is quote unquote evil.
Not knowing that you're good
Is goodness.
is goodness.
Yeah.
And any knowledge is?
Any knowledge has some evil nature in it. In the sense that it is, you see, you are building up, let's take the two of us, for instance.
Can I slow it down?
Yeah.
Because you used a really great word. You said clouding.
Mm.
So the knowledge
Is
clouds.
the clouds.
Yes.
The knowledge is the cloud.
Is the cloud.
Yes.
And so that knowledge comes in and you can't see your goodness.
You can't see, yeah, well, now you are seeing something which you call good.
Yeah.
But, and you've introduced that division in yourself already. You know, there's a me here now, a self, which is the knowledge. Now, without that self, it's blank, isn't it?
Yeah.
The blank that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that blank, you know, I've noticed when I talk to people, when we get this far and you start talking about blank and nothingness, it becomes a little bit like, okay, then what do I do with it? You know?
I know very well that.
Yeah. So you see, I think people don't realize that everything comes out of that nothingness, in the sense that there's no clouds that could be there if that blank isn't there, first of all. So anything is just a small portion of the blank itself, right? Yet people and life in general is afraid of being there.
The blank.
Yeah, the blank.
Yeah.
So we acquire knowledge, we acquire information, we acquire DNA, we acquire this and that.
Yeah.
So
and we compelled to.
We compelled to. There's a drive. It's not a. By the time you were born, the information was already fighting with goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've already ate the apple.
It's almost not a choice.
Yeah. There's no.
Yeah, you already ate the apple.
You've already ate the apple.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not a religious person, but when I hear those, you know, the stories and the examples they use, the tree of knowledge and all that, I can see it's people that probably, I believe people that wrote all these, whether it's philosophers or religious people or psychologists, I feel they were in touch with something
Yes.
that can't be communicated, because the very second you communicate it is corrupting that thing itself, right?
Yeah.
And then now, as along the lines now, we already lost for years and years now. We're interpreting it. If I read the Bible, I open any verse, I can interpret my life according to that, and then I would start looking for signs everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it's if you look at the whole movement of life, I don't see anything that you can easily discard, be it religion or science or philosophy and all that. There's some sort of unified dance that is happening, but somehow we haven't quite pinpointed.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wonder if pinpointing it is even a good idea. I wonder.
Sure. Somewhere there must be somebody who thinks they can pinpoint it, but I don't know. I don't know enough to say that it's pinpointable. Based just on my experience, right? And boy, have I tried. I don't know that it's possible to pinpoint. Because to me it seems like its very nature, the blank or whatever you want to call it, is to move. Right? The minute you try,
it has gone.
There's a shift. And then your work feels like catching up, and then, it's gone.
I think you're right. I think that is its nature.
Yeah.
By default.
Yeah.
But let's not give up.
I like that.
Let's not give up.
I do like that.
We might just be surprised.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, maybe surprised in a good or bad way.
Yes.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So I think what you said is very important, is first looking within yourself, right? Even within yourself, because we're not, you see Callum behind there, is pretty much acting the same way we're doing. Although he's not talking to us, but there's a lot of talking happening in him.
Yeah.
What is getting, the information is getting, how it's, he's reacting to it and all that. So we are doing the same thing, but just different people, right?
Right.
You could be thinking about your car or your wife or whatever, and I'm thinking about this tea, but it's really just thinking happening. So now can we look at you inside, right? And see the evil in you. I'm sorry, I'm sure you're a very good person, but can we see the evil in the sense that the evil in the sense that we've described? That's constant division in you, right?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So we were talking about fear, isn't it? How do you experience fear?
I think there's different things. Mostly it's like physical sensations, but me personally, it's sweaty palms, Yeah, those are physical reactions.
Yeah. By the time
tension,
you sweat, by the time this tension and you're sweating, fear has already started. Those are just like side effects of
signals.
Fear. Yeah, signals.
Yeah.
But how does it start?
How does it start? Generally, there's something I'm thinking that's making me fearful.
Yeah.
Generally.
So
there's something I'm thinking, possibly repeatedly, and it builds up inside as a fear.
So, okay, then thought is the beginning of fear. There must be a thought of something.
Yeah.
Must be thinking of, dying or, basically there's some sort of analysis happening inside of you.
Yes, most of the time. Most of the time, because I live a relatively safe life, right? But if there was a lion at the door, I wouldn't think about it. I would jump and run.
Yeah.
So there would be no thought. It would happen for me almost.
So I don't call that fear.
What is that?
To me, that is not fear. That's action. It's just, the same way you were saying growing is inevitable.
Yes, I got you.
So action is inevitable.
Yeah.
But you see, when you go hide behind the curtain, now you're thinking, is the lion already there?
Yes.
Because you've acquired knowledge of the lion and the danger and all that.
Yeah.
So it's memory now
Mm-hmm.
that is causing fear.
Yeah, is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's here now,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, if you're delusional, you could think there's some ghost somewhere.
Yes.
I don't know, I haven't encountered ghosts, or
No,
perhaps
neither have
some.
I,
Yeah.
thankfully.
But if you that, then you could really think there's some ghost there,
Yeah.
because you have the knowledge of ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
you have the knowledge of death,
Mm-hmm.
and all that.
Yeah.
So, memory, which is thoughts, is the trigger of fear.
Yeah.
So you said you would feel afraid if you're thinking about something,
Yeah.
if you're analyzing something.
Mm-hmm.
So, who is the analyzer?
The fearful one.
So there's the fearful analyzer and the courageous analyzer.
No, the analyzer is always fearful.
Oh yeah, true.
Always.
Yeah, true. You
Yeah.
can't analyze if you're not afraid of
Yeah.
something.
It's one of the, I would say, hallmarks or key indicators or red flags, whatever you want to call it, inside of me that I know, oh, I'm doing that thing. You know, if I'm comparing myself to my neighbor, if I'm analyzing, if I'm measuring, like, how much more,
Yeah.
you know, can I
You
do
want to
or
find
get?
out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That process of trying to find out, criticizing even, which is trying to find reasons why something is a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
All those are in the same category of coming from fear.
Yeah. So, okay, now we're looking inside ourselves. It's just one movement happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this analyzer,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this thing that is he or she is analyzing.
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing that she or he is analyzing, and who is the analyzer exactly?
Who's the analyzer exactly? Wow. Generally, I can say it's easier to say, what is she analyzing?
Yeah, that
Right?
you know very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's everything in front of me in the world, in my experience. You know, the day starts and I'm analyzing. You know, is it a good
Yeah.
day? You know, should my kid wear a vest? That's analysis at its basics, right? Then I'll get a spreadsheet and I'll analyze even more, right, when I'm at work. But who is the analyzer is much more quiet. Like, you know, that's the same as the who's hearing this as we speak. Who's the hearer?
Who's the hero? The same as who's the looker, the observer,
Yes.
who is the thinker.
Yeah.
It's the same question.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that's the source of all division, the source of evil, and the source of lack of understanding.
Yeah.
That's
Analyze.
division
Yes.
of the analyzer
Yeah.
and the thing that is being analyzed.
The division itself between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That in yourself
Yeah.
is the representation of every division that is out here.
Absolutely.
So now let's see if we can put those two people together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's a snake, right, around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You run, you start thinking about the snake, you're analyzing.
Mm-hmm.
There's the snake around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a clear third person who is looking,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are you looking at? It's the snake, right? The knowledge
Right.
of the snake.
Yes.
Would you be looking at the knowledge of the snake if there was no knowledge? Would there be a looker if there was not something to look at?
No.
So then, the looker is the thing that is being looked at.
Absolutely. Yes.
So why lie to myself that I'm different from... So why lie to myself that I am afraid while I am actually fear itself?
Because that's my nature. Because that's how I'm made to be for survival.
How do you know that you're made... Oh, yeah, for survival, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you say your nature, that's the survival nature of man.
Mm-hmm.
But is that nature itself, besides survival, is that life, surviving?
No. That's a tricky question.
Mm.
I don't know that I know the answer to that. But my sense is that there's an element, once you get a body, that has that nature for survival. But I don't even know if that's the right word, but there is another element that may not have a body. So bad what I'm saying.
No,
But
we're finding that.
that is aliveness, not alive with a body, that might not have the same drive, the same nature of surviving, because it's aliveness.
Mm.
You know, it doesn't have a threat of death because it doesn't have a body.
Could we put it this way? Isn't it that the only thing that isn't afraid of death is death itself? In this, we could also narrow it down that isn't that the only person who isn't afraid of himself? No. Let me see how to put it. Okay, let's stick to that. I think the example of death was much more better. I was trying to make it human. But
It's hard, hey?
It's hard. It's hard. So, everyone is afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is afraid of dying.
You're right.
Death, yet, is coming. It's coming for all of us.
Yes.
For everything.
Yeah.
So, the only thing that isn't afraid of dying actually is the process of dying itself.
Yeah. I've never thought of it like that. But I think that's
Is there some validity in it?
yeah, there is a okayness. It's not even the right, but it's like this is what is now, and so it is what it is. You know, kind of embracing, accepting okayness, right? So in that there is no fear. Definitely no.
So, if we make it more practical, could we say, me meeting the snake, I'm only afraid of, fear arises only because of my acquired knowledge of everything about the snake, right? The sense that there's death, there's all that, and, you know, being bitten and all that. But the action itself, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
That moment itself.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. Now you can go, you hide, even that as well, there's nothing wrong with it, right? The fear itself isn't really that bad, it's just action happening.
Right.
But the acquired accumulation of all those different actions, which is time basically, right? So yesterday not being okay with now, or yesterday not being okay with what might happen or will happen, that division in time itself.
Yeah.
But here, there's nothing wrong with anything. What is wrong with this?
Yeah, nothing. And in most cases, that's so true. It's actually one of the tasks I'll give somebody that I'm working with who is fearful and anxious or struggling, and even myself, when I find myself in those moments, to say, just notice that nothing is wrong right now. Right in this moment, nothing is going wrong. You're not under threat in this moment. So you don't have to be fearful and panicking and spinning right now. Right? Maybe in another moment, maybe in a different moment, but right now there is nothing to fear. You know? And when you can see that and be present with that, then the fear can't stay. It dissolves in that noticing.
So I think, to me, that was what I call goodness, like being, seeing what is exactly how it is. Not judging it, not comparing it,
Yes.
not projecting and all that. Goodness is what is.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
There's a complete action in this moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, you don't know how long it's taken me to see that, by the way.
Yeah.
Just that last bit you said, there is a complete action in that moment. It's taken me this long to really see that. You know, and that's massive. If you can see that.
No,
action
it's very
is complete.
subtle.
It's so subtle.
It's very subtle. I think that's why it's hard for people to look at it, because it requires some attention.
Yeah.
I mean, for you to discover that you are fear itself, it isn't that I am afraid. You are the fear, because you can only be afraid because of the knowledge.
Yes.
And knowledge is you.
Yeah.
So you are fear.
Yeah.
When you look at it, when you look at yourself, you see through yourself, then fear is going to run away. I mean, there's no point of being afraid of you. So I think self-knowledge, if that's something possible at all, I don't know how to put it, but self-knowledge is the beginning of goodness.
And that's, I see your problem with the word.
Yeah.
It's accurate or true, and yet at the same time, that self-knowledge is the beginning of the problem.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it's very hard to pinpoint it.
Yes.
But there's something behind the word that we're talking about. I mean, language, we can't talk about that.
Yes.
We're pointing at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing I've noticed with the people, that the reaction that I have online and all that, even directly with people, they listen to this, they see it as very abstract.
Yes.
It's just theories. I'd like to think it's the most practical thing you can do.
Yeah.
You can look at, and so it's a whole journey. It's like we are traveling, we're going somewhere, and we've just somehow discovered that we are stuck.
Yes.
We can't talk about what's behind. In fact, we can't even know it.
Yes.
Because knowing itself is a problem then.
It is incredibly abstract. It is incredibly abstract, right? And it's paradoxical as well, because on the one hand, pursuing knowledge is what's going to help you. Most people, right? Ordinary people like me, pursuing knowledge is what helps you see through the knowledge to what's beyond, what's the abstract. And it's very few people who will have a moment in time that just changes everything, either because of an accident or something generally traumatic happens, and then they have a realization that stays. It's not a moment. That's who they are. One moment they were one person, the next moment they're a different person with what I can call clarity, right? Through even the abstract. Those are few. That it does happen that way. I think in Japanese there's even a word for that.
What's that?
Yeah.
To see?
Yeah, to suddenly just...
You're kind of like an insight.
Yes, have an insight that stays and doesn't leave, and that is who you are. But most of us have to have a million little insights over time, but you've got to pursue it. And when you pursue it, the best way is through knowledge. Some form of knowledge.
Yeah, so you have to acquire enough knowledge to realize that knowledge is limited.
Yes.
It can't take you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see the struggle now we have in this society. That's the problem.
That's exactly
like you have to do enough evil things to realize that this is evil. There's no meaning in doing this,
And there are people who it will never be enough. They'll never get enough information.
Because that's the nature of time itself.
Yeah.
Because you see, it seems like time is trying to pinpoint something that can't be pinpointed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what sustains itself.
Mm-hmm.
By pursuing, you are sure that there's going on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, as long as you're pursuing.
Yeah.
Because stopping is your death.
Oh, so true. So true.
So I think it's very important to go through this.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier than later is better,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really matter even if you do it at the last second, it's important.
Yeah.
But everything seems to be going against this. Life itself, in a way, is going against this.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, it's almost as if thoughts, which is time,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as a virus,
Okay.
a very important virus.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we need it to move along, life. It's the beauty of thought itself and time and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very, very limited.
Very.
So using that analogy, that blank, and by the way, when I say blank, it's really not this blank because it's me putting something there,
You're right.
pretending as if it's nothing.
Yes.
But you know what I'm trying to point out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this blank state, and then there's knowledge that is accumulated,
Mm-hmm.
which is thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you can only be aware of knowledge through thinking.
Right.
So thought is the materialization out of the blankness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, the blankness says, I am what is.
Yes.
Without seeing that, it's a very, very small affair.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so natural, though.
Mm.
You know?
It's very elusive.
Yes.
you know.
Incredibly.
Yeah, it's an honest mistake.
Okay, so as much as it's a pointing word,
Mm.
the word mistake makes it look like something is better. Its
Mhm.
absence is better, in particular.
I don't think its absence is better. First of all, its existence is inevitable.
Right.
So we can't say it's bad or good.
Mm-hmm.
But we are only saying that because we're saying it from goodness, in the sense that we're putting things in their own rightful place.
Mm-hmm.
The sense that we know thought, although sometimes destructive, but it's very important.
Yeah.
But you can only say thoughts, you can say that about thought because you've seen its limitation.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not pretending to be the all there is, the ultimate truth,
Yeah.
the goodness and all that, when you're still stuck in that game of thought,
Yeah.
or the game of, let's stick to the example we're using. When you're still stuck in the game of fear,
Mm-hmm.
you're in the game of there's this and then there's the fear.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when you see the movement for what it is,
Yeah.
there's no movement, right?
Right.
You are quiet, and then you can see things exactly as they are.
Right.
You can now start jumping back and forth, but at least you have some sort of clarity. You're acting from some sort of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the value I see in looking at these things.
Right.
And it's now this is us talking about it.
Yeah.
We see we are limited about it.
Yeah, so much. Yeah.
But there's been an insight. There's been some sort of, let me call it depth. There's been some sort of contact,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that we are acting from there, from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
in our discovery of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lady who was talking to me early on, just when I was coming.
Mm-hmm.
She said, she was commenting on one of the posts, perhaps you'll see it after.
Okay.
And then I asked her just randomly that, is there something you wish for us to talk about in in the session, some clarity? She said we should discuss, when you wake up, just about to wake up, there's some sort of state. She said it's called theta state.
Right.
Yeah. I'm very careful with knowledge. I don't like going. I've seen the problem of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I only take knowledge when it's necessary,
Yeah.
because I have to navigate through life.
Mm-hmm.
But, going on YouTube and learning, because there's so many things.
There's so many. Yeah.
So I did the mistake of actually trying to go and find out about that theta state. I'm like, what is this? If I'm going to talk about it,
Yeah.
I should know something about it.
Good idea. Yes.
So I typed theta state on YouTube, And then there's this bunch of videos of materialize your dreams and what's not and all, all those crazy things. And now they're proposing some sort of music you have to listen so that in your theta states, you are programming and all that. It's true to some extent, I'm sure. I mean, if you listen to the same thing over and over, you're programming your mind.
Yeah.
But she wanted to find out if in that theta state, because it's a state where you start having visuals in your sort of sleep, and those visuals happen just before you wake up. And sometime in REM, that's according to the knowledge I acquired earlier on. So I'm not sure I'm explaining it properly. But I think what she was trying to say is, when I'm having those visuals, is it dreams or not? And then she asked, is it my soul trying to give me messages and so on? Like, what exactly is that? So I think we should explore that.
It's a really nice, that's a good question.
It's a good question. I think it has to do something with what we were talking about.
You see, just before you fall asleep and just when you're waking up, there is a change in state. Very different to deep sleep, when, like the REM sleep that you mentioned. It's not completely one state, or you come in and out of REM. But those key times, falling asleep and coming out of sleep, is when the mind is almost like a child's mind. Okay, and so that's why it's being pinpointed, and of course it's got the nice fancy name, hypnagogic states and another term. Okay, and that term, as you can hear from that word, comes from the recognition that those two states, you're less in analyzer, you are less in observer, criticizer in particular, and you're more open, right? So if you are going to want to imprint a vision or a goal, those are the ideal states, because you are less in your defense mechanisms or your thought patterns that in normal waking state think they're protecting the self.
But they're clouding it, they're building up the self.
They're so those two times, waking and sleeping just before, you're less cloudy. So you're more open to your personal ideals and unfolding that. So a lot of people try to kind of use that for manifesting and kind of forgetting that we're manifesting all the time, right? So they try to control the process in a specific direction of preference.
Thoughts, you see the evil of thoughts? They try to control.
Yes.
And by controlling, they're losing the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think at its best, if you're going to try and control those processes, or even, let's say, learn from them, because we all start somewhere, right? And it could be your journey of acquiring that knowledge that we talked about. It's best if you don't pursue things. You know, the pursuit of things and material goods. I think that's the tendency online as well. And
they want to manifest a Lamborghini.
Exactly. You see, they want to manifest
they want to use
a pile of money.
That huge.
Yes.
For something that small.
That you see. Yeah. And not necessarily recognizing the innate goodness is always there, you know.
So, could we say that since we are evil, and a lot of people will, especially some of the worst people I have to deal with online is the Christians.
I can imagine.
They're very, very harsh, and I would assume that being a Christian, you at least you have some manners, but they're the ones that really completely lose it. You know,
Yeah.
they attack you personally.
Yeah.
So I think this one is going to be very interesting with them. But since we are good, we are evil by nature, we are always rejecting that innate goodness that is everywhere by trying to either control it, beg for it to give us what we want. If we're begging, it's not giving us, then we can use some sound to go into theta states and have more evil things to do more evil things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an evil man can never touch that goodness. If you approach it that way, you are perhaps, I'm sure with some level of control you can have a bit of it. And then now, since it's just like drugs, you're gonna want more and more and more. But those are just, I feel like it's just side effects of the goodness itself.
Yeah.
So, how do you have those sort of? Let's talk about it practically. Those theta states or whatever.
Everybody does. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we all have. But how do you experience them?
How do I experience them?
Yeah.
Well, let's just say I have been on the journey of manifesting. So it can happen in different ways. You can induce a state by listening to certain types of binaural beats, that kind of thing, right? You can give yourself exercises to do where you learn to, or things like special kinds of yoga, where you learn how to control your sense of wakefulness while the body falls asleep.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and it's simple things that you can do, but there's also hard things that you can do. People can come up with all kinds of things, right? Yeah. But what I have experienced is just a sense of like a moment of wow. Almost like awe, but you can't really, if I'm in the moment of it, there's no description, right? But it's a moment of like, hey, I'm asleep, but I'm awake, Yeah. And a lot of people have had it already where they've had dreams, maybe you're dreaming, but you're dreaming. Yeah. Right?
A lucid dream.
Yes, a lucid dream. And it happens on its own. You haven't done anything specific or special to trigger that. But it's close to that. It feels like noticing that you're dreaming, but you're in charge of the dream. And in that state, it's like noticing, oh, okay, I have fallen asleep, I am relaxed, but I'm wide awake. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So she was asking, are those dreams still, or are those messages from, what did she say, the higher self or soul, bracket soul? So can we consider that as dreams?
Well, I think it's all dreams, isn't it?
How so?
Because how do we know we're not dreaming right now? How do you know the difference? Okay, but I'm kind of half joking, because I've had experiences where it wasn't deliberate, but because I was emotionally exhausted but needed to wake up, I would find myself in that state almost what I could say naturally, right? And I don't know if other people would notice it as much if they haven't had the training that I have, for example, right? But it happens to everyone. And I've had experiences where it was not a dream, but it was an unusual experience where I could understand why somebody would I mustn't say the wrong thing, but why somebody would invent something like an angel.
Yeah, I know.
So I would have an experience like that where it felt like an angelic presence, right? And I don't know whether it's because I was emotionally exhausted and I was dealing with, death in the family and very difficult subjects in my life.
Yeah.
If it wasn't that time, would I have experienced something else? I don't know. But to me, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like the presence of goodness
Yeah.
in a visual way, like light, but not normal light. Like, when you switch on the
Yeah,
light in the lounge or something.
Yeah.
It was peaceful. It was soothing. It was comforting. And it was not ordinary. So I've had that. But I have had in times when I've just died because I'm just tired.
Yeah.
And images come up that feel like dream images. So there's different things that happen. But I think what happens to many people is we don't have guidance.
Yeah.
We don't have a culture that guides us anymore, that we trust. So a lot of people have something that they can learn from Google, whatever. But we've lost the ability to trust the knowledge that we get. So even me talking about these things, there's going to be somebody who's like, oh, who's this?
Yeah. No.
Woo-woo lady.
No, I think first of all, they would never understand if they haven't experienced that. I think we shouldn't really worry about them too much because there must be a point where they go through this. Either it's now or when they're... Because, you have to face... I feel like it's important to face some sort of shock or, suffering or whatever.
Yeah.
And they will probably face it 2 seconds before they die.
Yes.
Or when they're dying.
Yes.
So eventually they'll see through it.
Yeah.
So in that state, you seeing visual images. Where you're seeing images. An image, what is an image? An image is a projection, right? A projection of something that is of a certain moment.
Yes.
Right? For you to project something, you gotta know what you're projecting.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably start seeing, dogs or you're on the phone or whatever. That's what you call visual images, right?
Right.
Even something that you've never experienced, but the act itself, it, in the sense that perhaps you could experience, you could project running away from a lion, a monster.
Yeah.
But there's running away that
Yes.
There's monsters, there's something, something that looks human.
Yes.
So basically it's you putting something there. So you are thinking about it. You are just aware of the thinking process, the visual images.
Yes.
So could we say that process is what happens here on a day-to-day basis? Like how do you see at all?
Yeah.
The science behind seeing.
Yeah.
Isn't it acquiring?
I mean, that on its own is,
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you, right? Seeing itself is such a weird science, right? Because I think just in high school you learned that the light comes into your eye and through the iris and other lenses in your eye, the image gets flipped and then it hits the through the optic nerve into the brain and flipped again, right? So the thing you see isn't really
what you see,
because there's all kinds of things that happen to make it real.
Through the light. You are seeing yourself. You're not seeing something.
Reality.
Reality is in what you are seeing yourself.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be the same for dreams in the sense that you are seeing yourself? But it just so happens that you get a moment of clarity whereby you know that you are actually dreaming. You are in a sleep.
Yeah.
So now there's a certain kind of, should I call it awareness? There's clarity in sleep. Now, when that is happening, right? Well, I've had some guys, I know some people that went through that.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him not so long ago. So with him, he was, he would be like in a room like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would start talking to people, and then he was start talking to his friend, and then he's like, I actually had a very interesting dream, this is what happened, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And then he realizes that he's still in the dream. So he freaks out, like, oh my God,
Wow.
And then he wakes up.
Okay.
So he goes and then starts telling his friend, you know what? I had a very interesting dream. I was dreaming, and then I came to tell you that. And then he realizes that he's still in the dream.
Oh my gosh.
So that went on for 20 times or so.
Wow.
So you can imagine the agony
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So in a way, he was seeing through the whole movement of his own being
Yeah.
and life.
Yeah.
But then to handle that was just too much.
Yeah.
So he had to come, he was looking for someone else.
Yeah.
Because, see, if you're looking for someone else, then it means you're not alone. Because you have someone to talk to.
Yes.
Yet, you are putting a man there because you can't stand the fact that you
are on
are
your own.
alone.
Yeah.
So you're putting someone there to just talk, talk about these things, but then you end up realizing that you've been alone all along.
Yeah. I mean, it is scary to realize.
It's very, it's almost as if you realize
Mm-hmm.
that you are dreaming right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
That would be,
no, but here's the thing with
Yeah.
that, right?
yeah.
You must realize that you're dreaming.
You must, it's clarity.
Yes.
Mm.
Right? And I would say it's even urgent right now.
Extremely urgent, and also, that's the first time you really are.
Mm-hmm.
When you see through illusion.
Yeah.
That's the goodness we were talking about. When you see things exactly as they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not be illusory about things.
Yeah.
When you see a fact for what it is, when you see the moment for what it is,
Yeah.
right? So, most people daydream,
Mm-hmm.
including me who's talking here.
Yes.
When we're thinking about all these things, we are daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always having conversation with people, thinking that you're having, in your mind, you could be sitting there, you're thinking you're having conversation, you're predicting,
Yeah.
remembering,
Yeah.
especially when it's, it's traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to fix what went wrong.
Yeah.
You're slapping the person who spoke to you in a wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's you,
Yeah.
You're daydreaming to what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like those states in sleep are the very few states where, since you're not so busy with life,
Mm.
clarity is fighting to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The clarity is, and you also processing.
Mm.
You also processing and trying to find perspective.
Mm.
There's a purpose there in that you are your brain and your mind are meaning-making machines,
Mm.
right? If we kind of make it very, very basic,
Yeah.
trying to piece together things that might be difficult to understand in your waking life,
Yeah.
right? And trying to put things in order almost, right? So that processing will result in certain ideas, solutions, possibilities occurring to you as you're trying to sift through. And then in waking state, make decisions, live your life in a meaningful way.
I think if you haven't had that clarity
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
everything has disorder.
Yes.
Because there I feel that's when creation is,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you are literally creating the next, when you, what we call wakeful state.
Well, I mean,
Mm.
I don't know. Are we sure of that? Do we know that is where you bring order?
I've gone through this
Yeah.
long enough. Of course, you have to take. Wait, don't even take my word for it.
Yeah.
Knowledge is horrible.
Yeah.
So doubt.
Yeah.
But when it happens to you, when you have those states,
Mm.
because you see, one thing I've noticed when it happens, and that's a daily thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm.
When it happens, there's a tendency, just like in the waking hours, to seek pleasure.
Yes.
Pleasure is a very good escape.
Yeah.
So you want to seek pleasure. If it isn't pleasure, it's fear. But anyway, there's no way you can pursue pleasure if you aren't afraid of pain.
Yes.
So pleasure seeking is a movement away from pain, kind of. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that movement is always very illusory, because now you start creating, start projecting all those things that you know, knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
I got you. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That if you say there is a state where it can be almost surfacey, that's where my doubt would have come from. Okay? So say more. I'm hoping there's more beyond.
No, there is more.
Okay.
But of course, what I'm saying here is just pointing at it. It's one thing talking about it, it's another thing. You know, I mean, you've had that snippet of that experience. You know how hard it is to even talk about it, to describe it.
Yeah.
But I personally, the way I do it, during the day here, I try to be as honest with myself as possible. There are some things that I keep secret, like every human being.
Right.
I can't come and tell you here, especially not in front of cameras, right?
Yeah.
But the honesty I'm talking about is not you going and spreading the words about who you are, what you do and all that.
Yeah.
But inside yourself, do you know really who you are, what you do, how you deceive yourself, how you know, what you're trying to achieve and all that. And then you take it a layer down and do what we've been doing here.
Right.
You know, looking at just the whole movement of life, the nature of thoughts, the divisive nature of thoughts, pretending that you are separate from yourself. Therefore, I am afraid.
Yeah.
While you actually fear, you are pleasure, you are everything there is.
Yeah.
So when clarity is during the day, and those are very rare moments, because, you know, you're always busy with something, with work, with family, with all that. But from time to time, it comes out of nowhere. Just looking at life, like, you know, this thing is really happening. And before I sleep, I make it a priority not to be too much on social media. This thing now that I'm doing is even worse, because now you have to respond to people and all that.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
so
along
it pulls
the
you into that world.
pulls me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying life is always fighting this. But along the way, maybe we find some people that can handle those kind of things. So before I sleep, I just look at myself. You know, I don't do any sort of crazy meditation. I don't know what meditation is. To me, meditation seems to be just live, right?
Yeah.
So I look at that whole movement, and then I start falling asleep. You know, the agony of it first, the agony of looking at yourself the way you are. It requires some tremendous courage, you know, to stay with yourself.
Yeah.
So when I go into sleep, clarity, the brain, you know, it's like a machine, really. It knows whatever that it does during the day is what happens during the night.
Right.
So if you have some financial issues during the day, you bring them as your dreams.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to fix this thing.
That's true. Yeah.
If you have some sexual issues, you bring them over there. Some religious. So a priest will see God in his dreams.
Yes.
But he's seeing himself, really.
Yeah.
A scientist will see an atom in his dream but he's seeing himself without realizing. But anyway, once you've realized that, right, when you see through that movement of life, and it's not me realizing myself, I'm realizing about humanity, I'm realizing about life itself, how life works. So that clarity kind of like goes in that sleeping state as well.
Yeah.
And there, because I'm not worrying too much about walking, the effort of walking, the effort of typing on my computer, dealing with a client and all that, I have a bit more freedom, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when that is there, the clarity now seems to be much more piercing. Then you get those moments where you aware that you are actually sleeping.
Right.
To the point where at times it starts as if it's just complete blankness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then the fear of the blank state itself then starts creating stuff, which is this life here, what we call life.
Yeah.
So you start, that's why I'm calling it creation. You see how things are coming out of nothing, I guess.
Yeah.
And before you realize it, it's a state, you know, it's a setup like this.
Mm-hmm.
But still there's that clarity within yourself that is there. And it isn't as, you see here everything is solid.
Yeah.
You know, but there you make solidification.
Right.
If that's a word in English, I think that must be French or something. Sorry.
That's fine.
There you.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't that. So every process comes to life, and you see it's how it is happening,
Mm-hmm.
including the idea that there's a man who is looking at something that is becoming material.
Right.
So that's another illusion in the sense that there's an observer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a man who is looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
So the clarity allows you to see that, in fact, this thing is looking at itself.
Right.
So I am what I am seeing.
Yes.
I am what I'm hearing,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. And of course, light, as you mentioned, it isn't that you are, probably you see light differently because you are light at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it isn't as dull as this. There's many, many layers of light itself.
Right.
So why I'm calling it creation, when that clarity is, the investigation of the clarity is the creation of what we call our daily lives.
Right.
So when you wake up, that clarity, right,
Mm-hmm.
kind of lingers around,
Mm-hmm.
which now you call, oh, I dreamed. You know, I
Yes.
had a dream of this and this and that and that.
Right.
And now, if you were clear enough, you can see exactly during the day how it plays itself out.
Yeah.
Literally, you could be walking and say, you know, the dog that is at the door downstairs there
Mm-hmm.
should start barking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you calling it as memory in the sense that I dreamed of, you know, I remember I was in this place, I was walking there, and then there's a dog there. So the creation never stopped. The creation is continuous,
Mm-hmm.
but you experiencing time now in the sense that you are discovering the creation. It's almost as if you've stepped out of creation to leave what has been created. So I guess to someone who hasn't gone through that,
Mm-hmm.
it's pseudoscience.
Mm.
You know, you are. What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just imagination. It's your dream and all that.
Yeah.
So, to a person like that, I say kudos. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
You must doubt.
Yes.
You can't get there if you don't doubt.
Yeah. 100%.
You have to doubt yourself in the sense that you even discover who, you know, the man who is afraid, or who is he,
Yeah.
and so on, and then that clarity somewhat start building up.
Yeah. I think that's incredible because besides the doubt, it also opens a window
Mm.
that may never, let me speak for myself and say, it opens a window of possibility
Mm.
where you're like, oh, you know, it deepens your existing clarity, if that
Exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's too beautiful.
Yeah.
You could wake up crying of joy, you know, because what is this?
Mm.
So I've noticed some people had that experience, and now what the mistake they do, they pursue it.
Yes.
Because now, you see, what's happening is you're pursuing the knowledge of it
Yes.
without realizing that's what it is. You know, it is there
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
It's all just, it needs just some sort of clarity. So remove the knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm.
Be more clear about yourself and all that and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, doubts, rationally doubts. And because you see, there in that state as well, there's a constant doubt that is there in the sense that I say, okay, am I feeling this cup? When I touch it, I'm about to touch it,
Mm-hmm.
is it gonna feel like a cup because I know how a cup feels like?
Yes.
Or is it actually a cup?
Cup, yeah.
So the doubt is part of the creative process.
Yeah.
By the time you touch it and then you really realize it's true, it is there.
It's there.
And then you go on with your life, you know very well that's what's happening. So it's kind of like you removing now the division that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm calling goodness. Okay. There's not even a single division between what you call waking up and dreaming.
Okay, so tell me where I'm going off course. What I'm hearing that I feel is like close to where I'm at or experiencing is not sometimes, not our can't use that word, often I'll notice synchronicities, right? Like there was one earlier with the car alarm, and then for some reason I used the word alarm. I don't even remember what I was saying, but it felt in the moment like, oh, wow, that just happened and now I'm saying this, right? Something felt like there was something moving there, right? And so throughout the day, some people will just look at numbers, 11, whatever. But there's things that will happen throughout the day. It's like I've had a teacher who would even call it like a wink from the universe, right? Where it's like a personal joke, but it's not random. That's the key. It's not random. It's either something I was saying or doing or thinking, and then it kind of shows itself, right? Or it shows itself and then I'm on that path. But something feels meaningful in this simple, small thing. I think what you're talking about is something like that, synchronicities, but almost like inner synchronicities. And then in your waking life, that's when it unfolds.
Yeah. Okay. So let me put it.
Am I grasping what you're saying?
I see what you're pointing at. So an example of synchronicity as well. Just before we start, there's a friend of mine. He was one of the guests here. You know, just when I was making tea, and then I remember, you know, we should actually think of making this podcast and audio as well. Because there's some people that don't have access or the data to look at the video.
Right.
Then he sends me a message, you know what, I think we should make this thing an audio as well and so on. So it's part of this. So to me, see, all these things are inevitable side effects of seeing.
Right.
They will happen. And I think people put a lot of emphasis on that without seeing. You have to see. Then all these become kind of like, and there are many, many layers of this. Yeah. There's synchronicity.
I think I've just seen that for the first time. I didn't even realize there was many layers. But
there are many, many layers of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's something that's really, what people call supernatural, I guess, that you can kind of see unfold. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to talk about goodness. You have to be very, very careful when dealing with this now. If you are not good in how we've discovered, then these will be the death of you. When I say the death of you is, you are a big, big problem for the rest of, including you, the rest of us. Yeah. Because now when you have that control mentality, and you've tapped into something like this that can create whatever your rubbish, then you know, then you have what we have.
Yes. I'm with you there, and I agree with you. I think I've heard it said in a way where it's like unearned.
Yeah, it's a
which
shortcut.
Is not a good word, but unearned awareness.
Yeah, it's like you sell your soul.
Yes.
You sell your soul to get something.
Yeah, because when you earn it, you want to be good. You want to use fire for well-being, not for torching the world.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. So, see those. All right. So let's talk about the other side. And by the way, you know, there's no other side.
Okay. Yes, that's true.
But for the sake of argument, let's just talk about the other side.
Yes.
Now there, when there's that clarity, that's why I'm calling it creation. everything that is and will ever be or has ever been is that. It just started now. See, we look at life as, billions of years ago, Big Bang, or maybe Christian or whatever, or Muslims and all that, because we are stuck in this gradual thing.
Yes.
But this thing just started now, right? And you get to see how it is being, not how you are doing it.
Yeah.
I'm saying you very carefully, don't put away the arrogance. Because you can't separate yourself from the process.
Yes, I hear you.
So we're not putting a creator there.
Yes.
That's very dangerous. We're not putting, something else that is in me.
Yes.
Yeah. So you see the division. By seeing the division, you become united, right? In your day-to-day life. Then you get there. The division, even in sleep and wakeful states, also you unite it, right? Then there isn't a thing, in the sense that there's no separation between me and something else, because the thing can only be there when there's me here and me in space. Something, time, all that. So you remove all of that. It's almost as if going back to the beginning of time. Which somehow we find it's the end of time.
It's so strange how you've put it. I've never heard that, but somehow makes sense. Isn't it weird when you have a moment like that or something? I've never heard it put that way, but it's 100% how it is.
That inside,
keep
it there. Yeah. Don't understand it. You can't understand it.
Okay, thank you.
So that happens, right? Then time has unfolded, because time is created, right? So now we're talking about eternity, something that has no beginning, no end. It's just pure creation.
Right.
So as here, we're limited to seeing time unfold as it is. But since there's that contact there, then obviously, you can't, life has a totally different meaning now. You have some residue of that. And then you have these things like synchronicity.
Yes.
This thing, see, why I don't like putting too much emphasis on those. For example, you see, when you start noticing that when you look at the time, it's always 11:11 or 12:12. Now, if you give it too much attention, you program yourself to see that.
Yes.
Which you
so
call
now
synchronicity.
You're chasing your own
you're
tail.
Chasing your own
it's
tail.
not.
It's not actual.
Yes.
Right.
I got you there. Yes.
So when you do that, and by the way, it's inevitable. You will do that because when these things start happening, they're so mind blowing that you have to follow them.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. The mind blowing. You have to go after it. But the clarity is there in the sense that you are seeing how you are pursuing power in a way, pursuing things.
Yeah.
That is goodness. Seeing evil in action.
Yeah.
So it's a never-ending action. It's a complete action. Every action is understood. Your own evil is understood. You're welcoming your own evil, and then naturally it happens. So, I think maybe that's answering her question, and the answer should be: don't care too much about those theta and what's not. If you're listening to music, please don't. Those. It's very, very, you can't get it by force.
Yes.
Yeah,
because the force actually starts creating something else, that chasing of your tail situation. But there was something that you said. You said you start to see how you're doing in the waking
state
life, right? So if you're seeing how you're doing, it's meaning, how I'm hearing it, is that there is an experiment happening.
It goes very far. Sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
because now I've run out of words anyway. I don't know how to finish the thought.
I know.
Yeah.
It goes a bit because when you're seeing how it is done. I'm saying it purposely so we don't introduce a subject and an object because there's no division in it. So when seeing is happening, there's no division.
Right.
the recognition that something has happened is the creation of the division, the observer.
Right.
And time and all that
yes.
and all that.
Yeah.
So the recognition of what has been is what you call helpful, wakeful state.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you see, in that state, there are moments even where, if you are clear enough, when you're tired of, because at the beginning, it's really just pleasure-seeking movement.
Mm-hmm.
You want all the men and the women and the cars
all
and
the money.
everything there is. Yeah. That's all you're going for. Because, I mean, you have total freedom. When you understand that the world is me, the person is me, you know, you make, you know, people grow like mushrooms out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that's all, you know. For the first time, you touch power.
Yeah.
So there's corruption in it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see that it's a repetitive cycle of the same thing that happens during the day, because now, you see, now, if you're using that for pleasure, now imagine how your daily life would look like.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess.
It's a big mess.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure which eventually becomes pain. So when you see the danger in that, you learn to, you know, to disregard all those things. You put them, they're important, but you put them in the right place.
Right.
Not too much of one thing over another thing.
Okay.
So clarity is during the day. Then clarity is also during sleep. And at times, when that clarity reaches, you know, the peak, you can literally then ask, then who is looking at this happening? When you ask that, then you say, okay, if none of this is here, clearly none of this is here, it's all me, then who is this entity that is asking about these things? Who is analyzing?
Yeah.
And you can literally see yourself now.
Yeah.
You could be laying in bed, you see yourself there. It's almost as if for the first time the world looks at you.
Yeah.
Because normally you used to looking at the world.
The world, yes.
Now the entire world looks at you.
Yes.
Only to realize that actually the entire world is in your head. Because I mean, all this is happening inside this man.
I had that experience actually.
You had that?
Yeah.
And then, so, you know, but because doubt is there,
Yes.
you want to find that I don't want to be caught in an illusion. What is this? So you say, okay, let me go look. If for example, for me, an experience would be, okay, let me look at this man first of all, because this one is sleeping. So I might as well go in the mirror, at the mirror and look at it. Like, who is this man? So from there to the bathroom to look at the mirror, I'm actually creating the whole reality of what is it to walk.
Yes.
What is a bathroom? What is, you know, space? What is light? What is time? I go there. I look at the mirror. I just put a mirror there, and then now the reflection of me is there. And of course, I have to see myself, which is this face here.
Yeah.
So then the question is, am I looking at me because I know myself, or how can I put it? Am I really seeing myself, or I'm seeing what I need to see? If I was another person, would I see something else? The very thought of another person, which could be, let's say, a child or you, for instance, is the creation of another person and the entire life and this and the discussion.
Right.
So now you come to an understanding that actually there's never been another.
Yes.
It's always been me.
Yeah. Oh.
And you know, the tricky part is now, okay, you've seen all that, you've lived, it's out of time. So, okay, now it start getting scary now because daily life has started. I'm like, okay, so then you ask the question, is this death? Like, if none of this is here yet, it seems so real. Like, then what is death?
Yeah.
Right? So you start getting afraid. You have to quickly, now you're thinking, I'm never coming out of this thing.
Yes.
Let me quickly go back to the man sleeping. So when you wake up, well, you go there, which is, the closer you get to him, the more you realize this sleep is happening, this is dream. And then now there's waking up. Now, during the waking hours, when, you know, just seconds after, because it's still very, very clear, you end up just because you want to realize that this is happening, you end up doing exactly what you were doing in the dream, as in going to the bathroom to actually realize and so on in the daily life and the podcast and
Incredible. Incredible.
So now, how you have that experience, right? You've had similar experience to some degree.
Yes.
But that is something that changes your whole life completely.
Okay, so here's a disclaimer or of some sort.
Yeah.
That is very recent for me.
Oh.
Very, very recent, right? That recognition of how, I don't even know how to express it, but it's almost like, it's too new. I don't actually even have the words to explain.
I don't think you'll ever have words. I mean, all this I'm talking about is just approximation.
Yes, but there's so many threads you've pulled together for me in that only very recently I realized how this side and this side, there's no side.
There's no side.
There's no side. I don't even think I've ever said that in my own mind to myself.
Yeah.
So even this is recent. It's happening now.
Yeah. Now, you see, for instance, right now as it's happening.
Yeah.
Do you see the beauty of that, first of all?
I don't know if I see the beauty yet. I think
it has to be fear first.
Yes, I'm freaked out.
I know. It has to be fear.
Yeah.
So, you see, that's why fear is a very substantial component of our lives.
Yeah.
It keeps things grounded.
Yes.
So, what we call problems aren't problems.
True.
They're very, very necessary.
Yeah.
Because, it's an escape from the truth.
Yeah.
It's a necessary escape. Because, it makes life. It makes the world go around and so on.
Yeah.
So fear is a way for you to run away from that. But you see, once you've come across that insight has happened, there's no point in running, because that's a daily life now. And
do you realize this is what I was asking you, by the way, on Instagram?
I know.
When I said, what now? Like what? Because that came after that, actually, that question. To kind of see that even though I knew it, right? I knew it, that it's all one. I hadn't experienced it, if that's the right word.
Knowing that it's all one, that's hypocrisy, that's a lie, that's illusion, that's knowledge.
Yes.
That's why you see so much fuss around this whole thing.
Yeah.
People talking.
So if we still use that word, which I love, by the way, the knowledge was there, but I hadn't left the edge.
Yes.
I hadn't immersed myself with it.
The only thing that was keeping you away from that was knowledge.
Yes, the knowing of it.
The knowing
of
it.
The
theory of it.
Yeah. Yes,
so
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Because I've been given words and labels and understanding, but they couldn't let me just be with it. And then you're in a bubble, in a world, which is different to being in the earth and of the earth.
Yeah.
The earth and the world are not the same. So the words keep you in the world, and it's limited, but eventually you shift and you are. You are.
And it's a natural thing, just the same way, there's necessity for the earth, for gravity, for all that thing. The division, that's what I'm saying, division is necessary, but it's limited.
Yeah.
At some point, it's a movement. The movement away from that is what we call division. Because remember, moving away from that, you've created something. Now there's that division. That's what we call life.
Yes.
That's this and that.
Yeah.
which materializes basically
Exactly.
our daily life and so
Yeah.
on. So this
And then
isn't
it
a-
just gets bigger and bigger
And
into
bigger and
your
big-
life,
Mm.
actually.
So this isn't a theory. It isn't something to think about. It's something to do. You do the work
Yes.
to get there.
Yes.
So that's why I have a very big time online with people, because I can't trust your words.
Yes.
I don't even trust my words.
Yes.
I know the limitation of my words.
Mm-hmm.
It's something else entirely different when it is happening, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what the guest or the viewer should also do. She mustn't focus too much about the REM and the
Yes.
non-REM
Yes.
and the binaural.
Yeah.
Do you know yourself?
Big, good question. Yeah.
So I think hopefully we've had some insights, including the viewer, especially the one who asked the question.
Yeah.
But see, the good thing with this for me is I always find out about it as I'm talking.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to approach this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Hopefully you found some value in this.
Absolutely. I think I got more than value, actually. I
Yeah.
don't know if you can put a value on insight.
No, you can't.
You can't, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're done for today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so
And,
much.
You know, one thing I've noticed along this journey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's that's when I started the podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
I call it Mirror Mind for that specific reason.
Yeah.
You know, it's so vast, it's so immense that the more clarity, the more a bit complicated it is to even live your daily life, right?
Yeah.
So you need people that have kind of gone through it
Mm-hmm.
or that are going through it.
Yeah.
So it's like some sort of support system in a way.
Yes. Yes.
And this is a very, very dangerous thing.
Mm.
It isn't something to play around. It's definitely not an entertainment. It's
Yes.
not something to play around with.
Yeah.
And you need to be good. I think we are good people today. We found out
Yeah.
what goodness
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That keeps things in check.
Mm-hmm.
So as you go on in your journey, I'm always here if you need anything, if
thank
you
you.
have questions.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be there if I have questions, because definitely I need the support system as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's a promise.
Okay,
Yeah,
no
'cause
problem.
I think it's empowering and inspiring
Mm.
at the same time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being with us, guys. It was another session of Mirror Mind. And I hope you're doubting all of this. It's
Yeah.
extremely important to doubt. You have to be able to see it through yourself, the validity, the truth of it. Otherwise, it's just you're wasting your time. You might as well do something much more valuable. So thank you for being with us.